Welcome back from break. We are getting into that middle match of the day. It's going to be Nokturns taking on Aqualix. This one's interesting. Both of these teams, well, Nokturns is 2-1, Aqualix 1-2, but they both had days yesterday where kind of a reversal of their fortunes thus far. Nokturns tough loss, CJ.
Yeah, they got 1v5'd. They got 1v5'd by CZ from Unemployment, aka Carnage Company. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. The guy dropped 18 on him. And of course, the roster you're seeing on your screen right now is not accurate at all. There's been a lot of injuries. Exod doesn't play for this team no more. Okay? Exod has an office job. Okay? Someone else on that thing that's no longer there also doesn't play Splash. So it's like they've got a lot of injuries. Okay, they're playing with like a different player every second. Okay, so they're kind of struggling through the stage, but they still have that key win opening week. The only time we saw them on stream, it looked good. But otherwise, it's been off stream and it's been with subs. So that's the story for Nocturnes.
The team that is the great mystery at the moment, Tanner. Aqualix now, they defeated Unemployment yesterday. They got that first win, and they look to be finding their form.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that, you know, in stage one, I was not a fan of how they like to play. However, going into stage two, they've made some roster adjustments. They picked up an IGL in the form of Beastly, and they've absolutely looked, they look different. They look more composed. They play more like a team. You see a lot more trade game going on. The spacing on their entries a lot more solid. And overall, it's been a very good improvement for Aqualix this stage. I'm very impressed with how they've been playing, specifically with Psychosis. He's a player that came into this league, maybe not having the best stage in the first stage. And then yesterday, I have him as my highlight player for a reason. You know, he was making really big impact picks. He was doing really good on the entry. And every time when he was getting killed, he was getting these trades that are being followed up by his teammates. He's been putting in an absolute performance. And overall, I think this is a very different Aqualix team. We have enough of a sample size to not have to put an asterisk on it at this point. 3 play days, and they're able to pull up some very competitive games, a lot of 7-5s. And last play day, they were able to get their first 3 points.
Yeah, they're definitely finding that equilibrium between Beastly and Gasher that I think this team was like sorely needing, through last year and then this previous stage. Cookies for Nocturnes. I know they've been a great mystery, as we said to us, but you know what? They had a tough run last stage in stage 1, but they did have some good, memorable moments. And I think this stage, if they can continue it, they've been putting together a stage that is one that they actually like so far.
I mean, good Lord, Brim. It's been the story their whole existence this year.
Yeah.
Because when is everybody going to log in to the game on Saturday and Sunday, connect the wire, connect the moss? We don't use wire anymore. That was a joke. But, when are they all going to play together? Because I can't do my job. Brim, I'm sorry. I can't do my job if the team is not complete.
Hold on. Are you asking me to do your job or what's happening right now?
I'm asking Nocturnes. Like, I don't know if Dauntless has to play. Whatever. Make Dauntless the starter. But at some point, when are they going to have everybody ready to go? Now, of course, the guy subbing in today, this particular day, is going to be Lackey again. Lackey is now permanent. Lackey is the full-time starter now because Splash has suffered a terrible, terrible season-ending injury. An ACL tear. It's completely done. So it will be Lackey, the guy who has been there for them all of what year are we in? 2021. He was their guy. And, they got rid of him, and now they have to bring him back. Lackey is going to be playing the LMG, and will that be enough to keep things kind of stable for them in a very rocky time for them? I don't know. That's why I'm struggling right now, okay?
As soon as you said tore his ACL, I thought, man, cue the Connor leg joke right now.
Yeah, if Connor was here, that would be great, but unfortunately, we had to do we can't keep him on 2 times in a row. Connor's literally lifting his legs up right now, trying to get ready for the rest of the day. So
get the blood moving again, get his recovery time. Yep. Tanner, unfortunately, we have to settle for you and your completely working legs.
Settle.
So what are your critical points for Aqualix?
I'm going to just walk right through these points. First big one for them is they need to be ready to adapt, all right? They need to be ready to adapt to the play of Nocturnes. One thing we saw, when they were playing versus TTK is Mr. B was able to make these great adaptations to their defenses, and they're able to come up with good ideas on how they wanted to counter the defenses from Aqualix, and Aqualix were just doing the same thing over and over again. So the big thing I have for them this play day, because they're going against Papa P, he is a player who can adapt. He's a good IGL. Make sure you're able to just throw your game plan out the window if you have to. If something isn't working, don't go back to it a second time. Make some adjustments, make some plays. And the second thing is, we saw yesterday versus Unemployment, they were very consistent, specifically on their defensive roam. They were able to get picks, and when they did get picked, they got trades really quickly. The one thing I want them to watch out, specifically versus Nocturns, Papa P likes to just take the space that's available to him. He likes to just push in, right? Be ready to collapse back to site. Be ready to come back on a moment's notice, because if Nocturns are able to find the gaps in the space that they're looking for, then they're going to take it. And if the roamers are off in Narnia, it doesn't even matter that they're in Narnia. They're not impactful in the round. They're going to have to do a retake and a post plant. That's not something you want to do against, a 150 Sophia or a 100 Finka with LMG and nades. That's just not what you want to do. So be prepared to adapt and be prepared to collapse. And I think Aqualix should have a very good time with this game.
Well, CJ, we've been continuing the trend thus far, only 2 maps into the day, of the new map every round. Can we keep doing it? Can we keep seeing a new map every game? I'm hoping for it. I love it.
Yeah, maybe. One thing about Nocturnes that has been consistent, unlike their lineup, is they actually do play a decent chunk of maps. We've had Oregon and Bank thus far, and I mean, going back to last stage, they're willing to play like a theme park, but they banned it today. They're going to be going to Chalet, and once again, Chalet. This team has a very long, illustrious history. I'm not going to go through every map they've ever played ever. Okay, I'm sure no one wants to hear that. I don't have time. But Chalet's a map. Going back to stage 3 of last year, I think they kind of readdressed it as a team. And going into this year, they've only gotten more intelligent. So I'm sure they can play it at an elite level, especially since they just let it go through, right? And doesn't it make sense? Hard-hitting analysis, I know.
This I think, Tanner, is a fantastic map choice. I think for both teams, we get to reap the benefits as the viewers. Now, as the predictions come up, what are your thoughts personally on this match outside of just win and loss? How do you think this one's going to play out between these two teams?
So I like the point that you brought up with Chalet being a great map. This is a map that is like a frag heavy map. It's all about picks. It's about window plays. It's about, making those little cheese plays, those little rat plays coming up from the basement and dynamic entry. I think whichever team, since this is a best of one, comes out shooting, right, and has their gunners playing to the standard that they expect, are probably going to be the ones who are going to pull away with this one. Regardless, both teams have got great shooters, right? But it's the ones that come to play today. I know, they're shooting or they're not shooting. It's not like the best, but that's how Chalet plays out. It's a frag heavy map. It's very attacker sided. Hopefully we get to see into Zombie in here, because she does kind of change the dynamic of how windows are played out and how certain positions such as master and piano play out. But other than that, it's very much who's going to be shooting today, who's going to be trading today. And with how Aqualix were playing yesterday, that's why I gave them my vote. I think they're an absolutely stud roster, and I think this is a map that they should be thriving on.
Cookies, I think it's safe to say that the win yesterday for Aqualix is a huge boost in the right direction. This will carry for them. Now, at the same time, do you think the loss for Nocturns, is that something that will sit heavy on them, or is that something you think that they can get by?
They're probably thinking, good Lord, I hope it doesn't happen again. I hope it isn't Afer this time dropping 18 on us, which is very liable to happen between the 3 Psychosis, Afer, and Traquan. You understand, Nocturns, that you're going to have your hands full yet again with the 3-headed fragging attack that might just blow your doors off. Now, great thing about this new Nocturns, Doc with a Q and Xeno, they're nasty. They're going to be extra nasty because Lackey is unfortunately French Canadian, and he's going to struggle to kill anyone on Aqualix.
Has nothing to do with being French Canadian, though. Courts just showed us how great he was last game. He's French Canadian.
Just kidding. I love Lackey.
I think the Canadian players do it best, if I'm being honest. Tanner,
so everyone knows,
the Canadians are the best players.
Pro Canadian desk at the moment, isn't it?
Best player all time.
Yeah, that's a problem.
What's his name?
I think we need to do something about that. We need to do something about this desk right now. I just realized that.
You're in the minority,
okay, well,
CJ. What's it feel
what
like?
we are going to do while we let CJ stew just a little bit here and revel in our Canadian greatness, is we're going to flip to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have that matchup for you.
I'm going to pull out my flag.
I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Welcome back, everybody. After that extended break, we have everyone in the lobby now. If you are just tuning in, it is Nokturns versus Aqualix on Chalet, a map that just a year ago, Aqualix seemed to be indomitable on with their playstyle. They've undergone quite a few changes since then, John. Let's see if they have the same sort of energy and consistency they had on it just a year ago as they do now.
In general, it does seem like, in comparison to Nocturnes, they seem a bit more consistent. We haven't seen a lot of on-stream games for Nocturnes to begin with, but the off-stream games they have had aren't all that successful for them to begin with. And we've seen Aqualix, a team those at the lower end of Stage 1, be able to compete with some Titan teams like Luminosity, for example, on this map. So things are really looking good for them. They've been able to kind of swindle this map in through their way towards this best of one. So because of that, I want to change my vote from Nocturnes off of them now onto Aqualix instead, because I think they have a strong chance of winning this matchup.
Did you hear that? Xeno and Papa Poison.
Slothy's gonna, he's
John,
gonna at me on Twitter again. He's gonna hunt me down.
John does not have faith in you. And I do. I will keep the faith. I think they're winning today. But of course, starting out with the ban phase, getting out of all that prediction nonsense, Thatcher in a Nook starting out. Not a surprising ban for Nocturnes because, well, as we know, AQ on that first weekend liked to play Nook quite a bit, and also just a stronger operator. Now we'll get her off the board, and Nocturnes banning out that Azami, as Tanner mentioned, can kind of change the dynamic on Chalet defense by blocking off a lot of those windows that you need to be a little bit more proactive in dealing with on the defense. So getting rid of that shortcut will be unfortunate for AQ starting out on the defensive side.
Final ban on the block will, in fact, be Valkyrie, denying some of that information once again. You mentioned the Azami could probably not have as much stall potentially here in this round, but at least the Wamai was able to scrape past that ban phase. So we could potentially see him a lot in play, especially when you want to go for those full-fledged extensions, like Bar and Gaming, for example, when you want to go into Top Blue and Library as well. If you want to go dining, like we see right now by Aqualix, you can go extend a floor higher directly, play in your offices, play all the way in the back near, Solar, for example, / Master Bedroom. It just wastes a lot of time across the board, and if we have Trial remain alive on that Wamai, you can maybe use some of those magnets a bit more proactively, trying to slow down the site presence overall once you have to eventually give up that top floor, unless you do a very good job at winning your gunfights on that roam game.
Now, the Wamai can certainly make holding positions like Piano a lot easier to work with, especially with the 1 or 2 deployable shields that the attack has. And even then, combined with the Aruni gates as well, a lot of potential for projectile denial or wasting some of that projectile utility on the top floor if AQ decide to focus a lot of that utility on the top floor, as, given that it is a kitchen and dining defense, I expect that they would. Interesting pick coming out from Nocturnes right now, as we have Doc go to the Ash as opposed to, say, Ayana to join the Fink and the Zofia. They already have quite a bit of explosive utility, so sure, you could get more with that Yana in addition to an easy burn with those Aruni gates. Again, just running your Yana clone into them, but still, plenty of explosives for the attack.
just extra explosivity like you mentioned, maybe to help break down some of those shields. There are 2 in total, one in the pocket of Aether and the other one by Beastly as well. I did mention the importance of keeping Trot alive because he's really the only person to slow somebody down in terms at util besides the Aruni, but he's already down via the window repel done by both Lackey and Poison. They haven't confirmed this position just yet in order to kill Trot outright, but he's pretty much in a do or die position where he's already down, most likely not going to be picked up because that cross is already there, and now the drone information is there too with Poison getting that finisher, but it was actually Doc to get the down on that Aruni, and now a second killer, pardon the Mumbai, and now the alibi goes down as well.
That's what I was going to say. Doc on that window repel, able to get a very impactful down and later finished off by Poison, and a 2K now. Once Aether trying to maybe cover Doc if he wants to get back in the bathroom or try to rotate off to be revived, he falls as well. So just from one singular repel across the map, Nocturns have completely opened things up. Doc going for 3 now and spots the Aruni, caught completely off guard as Psychosis inside of Master Bedroom. And normally we'll see teams, maybe take a minute 30, 2 minutes to even get a half clear on this top floor, but Doc has done the work of just short of an ace. He'll finally fall to Beastly. The smoke inside of the site, peering up through the hatch, takes down the Menace in round number 1. But at this point, yeah, this is round number 1, done and dusted for Nocturns.
A very mighty start indeed for the attacking side of Nocturns as they immediately put the hurt on Aqualix, establishing that window pressure to have the cutoff and make sure the fallback was 10 times weaker. It actually allowed Doc to secure that entry once the information was there and the utility was burned against those Syria gates. We had a quick finisher, a second by Doc, and Nocturns, they wasted no time hopping into the building, getting that top floor pressure, and immediately putting down even more hurt on the site presence as well, and there was just nothing left for Aqualix at that point because Doc was just putting up, just a harbinger of death at that point. He was just the Grim Reaper on round number 1, almost getting the ace, but he already had done his job by finding 4 kills. I guess the only thing he missed in that round was just bragging rights of finding all 5 in the first round.
Yeah. Doc's a player inside a Challenger League that a lot of people has touted as maybe with some more maybe T2 experience under his belt, having Pro League caliber mechanics and just being a Pro League caliber player in general. And obviously 1 round does not fully make the argument for a player, but definitely a good statement to have starting out in round number 1 attached to your name. Being able to play passively in a 2-piece and then play aggressively and get 2 kills there as well. Aqualix will try kitchen and dining a second time, and running the same lineup honestly makes sense, as it was not really a fault in the strategy and the lineup itself that was Aqualix's undoing. Though at the same time, even though Doc got that 4K with Ash, he'll go back to the sledge and give his team some extra nades as Nocturns bring Diana as well.
Yeah, they just simply lost to Doc, and being that simple on how the round ended up being quite successful for Nocturns overall. Seems like they're not going to want to go on those window repels or trying to have anyone on that long cutoff angle over across the northern side of the map. Instead, they will start over in Library, gathering that information, and already beginning to try to apply some pressure over against this top floor once again, because it's so important to have this position in your back pocket for that verticality, not only for the attackers if they eventually clear it out, but also the defenders, as it's a great way to try to stop that plant from potentially going down, especially inside of dining room.
45 seconds in, Nocturns already knocking on the door to Master Bedroom's office, though mainly office at the moment, as Doc breaks open for the panels. Though normally we see this wall reinforced at least a little bit for the defense, so seeing it completely soft, this is some work that the attack no longer has to do. Don't even need to worry about hard breaching to be used on that wall. They just go with a couple hits of the sledgehammer, and a lot of that work already done. I mentioned in the round prior as well that a lot of the times we won't even see teams go for a full clear, won't step too far in a bathroom or step too far into bedroom. They will get this bit of control. The angles opened up inside of office and shutting down piano as well, and then start focusing on that bottom floor, but at the same time, by going with that strategy that a lot of teams do, let Psychosis still get aggressive.
Still able to be alive as well to hold down this top floor for a few more moments here. No utility, though, to actually stop a grenade. Can allow that shield to be destroyed, forcing Psychosis back, as again, he's on very low HP. Eventually down by Xeno, and spotting the blood on the floor, he assumes that the worst has happened for Psychosis, and Doc tries to throw a nade to get that finisher off. Seems to not really connect, though, but at least the Nitrocell does for Aqualix.
Oh, but right as Zeno goes in to finish off Psychosis, Aether with 2 big kills on the top floor. That leaves, well, so far the raid boss in Nocturns versus Aqualix. Doc left alive upstairs. Gasher C4 gone as well, so he's fairly safe on this top floor unless Beastly or Gasher decide to get aggressive through one of these vertical holes. Doc could also go about creating some extra ones, but considering it's a 1v2, he might just go about revealing his own position every time he uses that sledgehammer, letting AQ track his position in real time and reposition themselves accordingly. Now drop down that bedroom hatch and starting to put the bomb on the floor. Beastly has some smoke canisters to toss behind the counter. Might just throw one. And yep, it's a little bit late, but Doc put to 1 HP now as a result. Got to get both of these kills with only 1 bullet away from death. And that's fairly easy for Beastly to clean up after that.
And I'm glad that we had Aqualix just take a moment to breathe, regroup between both Gasher and Beastly, and just slowly come back towards the site. Once they realized the diffuser was being put on towards the ground, they threw out a smoke grenade at just the right position, being able to put the sledge on a sliver of health. He couldn't properly sit in the site because of those toxic canisters, really denying a majority of that natural cover he had near that bomb chassis. He had to swing wide, hoping he would win his 1-for-1, but he was not able to, as again, he was on very low HP, and Aqualix had a very good read on Doc. Altogether, much better team play and a much better job overall at slowing down Nocturns in order to have that top floor extension actually pay some dividends by, once again, just burning through the man count on the side of Nocturns and also wasting some valuable time and resources they could have maybe used for those final moments of the round.
And that's definitely a strategy that Aqualix will have to employ if they want success on this basement site. At least wasting time is maybe getting aggressive and getting kills. If you end up losing some fights on that roam, you give Nocturns a lot of control, and the main way you defend basement being with that off-site play, able to hold down the hatch above wine, and also just give some potential for flanks later on, and also holding some valuable control that Nocturns will want or have to clear. If that ends up faltering, Nocturns will be able to move in fairly quickly. At the same time, Nocturns also can't let themselves get too tunnel visioned. They let key positions like blue survive and don't focus on clearing out those players upstairs. Have to focus on winning gunfights, and that can be very difficult on basement. And again, right now, no one is on site, so if Nocturns are quick about it and AQ are slow, we'll see some very early control.
Definitely interesting seeing 3 whole grenades in the pocket of Nocturns, but I am glad to see the small readjustment by Aqualix having both the Jaeger and Olmai on the board rather than just one of the two. Don't get me wrong, sometimes those Gates can fit the role of that Jaeger, but just not to the same extent altogether. And we saw that utility still be just enough to eventually deal with that top floor presence. It was just, again, the man count that wasn't really enough. It seems like the small piece of utility up underneath that single window was not enough to keep that actual grenade at bay, so at least the barbed wire above it will go down, but that Electro Claw is still sitting quite comfortably on the double wall as Nocturnes try to figure out a new way to remove it.
Some good utility, though. Poison does not end up losing an exothermic. You saw he paused once that Electroclaw was destroyed and didn't put his thermite charge down. Waited a little bit, and while they will need to expend more utility, they do know that there was still an Electroclaw up there, and now Poison can get back to hard breaching that wall without worry that it will be electrified and destroyed. Wall opens up as a result, but Tra will still open things up for Aqualix as he moves up the blue stairs, takes down Doc. Slothy falls very soon as well, and the roam is working out quite well for the defense so far. 1 kill does go their way, but Aether's still able to rotate back and keep the advantage for Aqualix.
And with Doc dead, that allows no verticality, so although the roam game has eventually fallen back, they could simply just play for bodies, and again, that strong trade game that we saw by Aqualix last round. Still, you have Psychosis up above, and with the knowledge that Aether has in fact fallen back, and with Tra dying by the hands of Xeno, that could allow that false sense of hope for Nocturnes. They could begin to hit the site when, instead of trying to hit the site properly and only focusing on that horizontal pressure, they might be met by a flank in the hands of that alibi.
NKG waiting for right now, hoping that maybe the person off site will make a play and give themselves up to an angle from the attack. But Psychosis playing very patiently, though now moving into dining, I do believe. Nope, still sitting in trophy, but now moving up into dining, or kitchen at least. Nocturne's looking for maybe something on the site to give himself up. Since Psychosis, he will fire some shots, but not fall to anybody from the attack just yet. Poison cuts his losses, starts going in behind that bookcase. Xeno trying to cover, will land a nice shot in connector, but not before Poison. His IGL on the main with the diffuser drops to Gasher's MP5. Lackey and Xeno both now on reduced HP, and Xeno even lets the alibi slip by, but things have gone from bad to worse for Nocturnes inside of the site. Xeno, again, on 50 HP, is focused on the players in sight, but can now hear the alibi moving down main stairs just behind him. He can't react in time. Never mind, he can react in time with a C4 landing in front of him and him on 1 HP as well. This is looking like AQ taking the lead in round number 3. They have intel on his position as well as Z-Ping going out, and nobody getting too aggressive to give Xeno a biblical 1v2 if he were to able to land these shots. Finally spots Gasher, but there we go. Nail in the coffin. Finally goes in, and AQ, as I said, take the lead.
And because we had Aqualix in a good position altogether for their site play, it was just enough to make sure that plant wasn't going to be a problem at all. There were very limited options for poison, again, because of how many players were still left on that anchor game after we saw the fallback eventually by the Vigil, and still in general, like the Kaid and Gasher, for example, on the Omai, still holding those key positions. The main breach wasn't all that much of a factor for Nocturns. They had to all walk down main stairs, and having to worry about that looming presence of the flank by Psychosis, it could have been just enough to allow Aqualix to actually double down on trying to close the gap and making sure they don't have to retake when a post plant goes down. It forced the hand of Nocturns as they have to worry about a potential crossfire in the mix. They had to get aggressive at 1v3, and already low in HP, it wasn't really meant to be at all for Nocturns in round 3.
AQ's defense is faring a lot better without Doc getting a 4K. We'll need to see something, or a different win condition for Nocturns as opposed to just Doc going huge in round number 1. See, Master Bedroom Office, where AQ not favoring that bar gaming site whatsoever, instead going to what is, or tends to be, one of the more least favored sites in North America, and without that Azami, definitely a lot more difficult in returning to how it usually was. With that Azami, maybe you're able to block off some windows or make playing that position that we see Tross sitting in a little bit easier, but without it, you'll just have to go back to hoping the Jaegers and the Wamais and even the Rooney Gates will do the work.
Seems like Nocturns once again want to try to go for potentially some sort of late push over near Library. No, Doc's actually just holding the exact same rappel angle he was holding around number 1, where he had a nice long angle all the way into Bathroom, and also some portions of Solar, since we have Lackey as well over near the double window rappel towards Solar, like I had mentioned earlier too. For Aqualix so far, though, they're not trying to challenge anybody on Solar head-on, except for potentially Gasher, who might be waiting for that golden opportunity. Besides that, it will just be the lone Jaeger, Afer trying to cross over this death trap potentially over to the window. He is expecting Doc to be holding that, so he'll be a little passive around that window presence and just still trying to help out Gasher, but doesn't want to overcommit to anything just yet.
Does have to be worried about that bathroom window, though. Nobody out there just yet, but still a very common position to be played, and one that Doc is still watching. Not as long of an angle as he was on in round 1, but still some potential if Afer does get over aggressive, as you say. Draw off the site right now, all the way over inside of blue, just hanging out for the time being. Ooh, unfortunately, the first to fall. Doc watching that very position, ends up losing his life. Psychosis still over in that area. Nobody inside a pillar right now, so that's a useful position cleared. They could probably ward Psychosis off fairly easily with some just even loose presence.
Nocturne's not having all that much success over in trying to go through Solar, so they immediately rotate, and because of that, Lackey is granted a kill onto Psychosis as he begins to try to readjust in the round once again on that alibi. 5 versus 3, and now having that cutoff angle as well held by the Nomad of Slothy, this definitely does look to be a great position to try to get that plant, and especially now since Beastly has unfortunately disconnected, forcing a 5 versus 2 with Aqualix on the back burner.
Yeah, Afer, he was in bathroom hoping to not take an engagement, but now probably has to with that disconnect, and also the 5v3 before that. It's Gasher to open things up, though. First kill onto Xeno, the Zofia all the way over inside of Heaven. 3 players for Nocturns in that spot. The other one on Repel, and Gasher hoping that he'll give away something, and Slothy does. Gasher hops up, takes the Nomad completely off guard, and now AQ might just be able to win this. Afer sees him go behind the quarter wall, and that's Diffuser dropped inside of the site in a 2v2 as well. Doc's been able to open things up for Nocturns a few times so far in the round now and in round number 1. But Lackey, he's got to land this pre-fire. Gasher loses a lot of HP, but Afer swings on out. Lackey has a hell of a lot of bullets, but his chance at winning this has just plummeted. Afer goes for the swing. Lackey's watching, does shut him down. 1 bullet will give Nocturns the 2v2 and stop the 2v5. Nose in bedroom, and the pre-fire works, but too close for comfort for Nocturns as they almost give a very brutal round to Aqualix.
A rehost being called, but such a close call for Aqualix altogether. They really did look, they had that round as a potential win perhaps. Still not having the Omai dealt with, able to hold that perfect pixel angle to make sure the Habana could not get the plant down, but unfortunately still not being able to tag team in that 1v2 because we had the Finka player actually behind natural cover of that half wall, able to shut down the Omai, having the better gun. And again, with Gasher being so low on HP, there wasn't really a lot of hope for him left when you have to go up against that 100 bullet semi-truck essentially, as that thing does a lot of hurt put in the right hands. But again, almost losing a 5v2, definitely a huge red flag as we continue to have this rehost trying to get a reconnect going in for Aqualix.
I really got to give it to Gasher. The 3 players over in or I guess 4 players technically, if you include the first kill that Gasher got in the 5v2. Almost everyone from Nocturns was over on Heaven, but getting Slothy off of that bedroom rappel was really what opened things up. It allowed Afer to play on Blackwall, to look and down, or put the diffuser down on the floor and kill the player who was holding it. Gasher getting that second kill was really what opened things up, and getting a kill before that as well already sweetened things. But just able to take down that very powerful position allowed Afer to have the impact he had later on as well. Well, I believe, come back to us as we're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the disconnect. Might have to rehost, but still holding out just yet. We might be able to get him to join back, but it's just taking a little bit longer. We won't just look at the screen anymore.
Yeah. Still, though, a pretty impressive round altogether for Aqualix. Again, they played in that situation very well. If they had maybe just waited a little bit longer to once again try to force the finger to go for that plant, things could have went completely well for them getting that win altogether. But I mean, when you have the Finka trying to stick that defuse, she's close to 1 second off. It's not really a bad decision to try to relocate, wide swing that soft wall, and potentially try to land a headshot, as she's probably looking near that rotate towards Office and Master itself. Not a bad 50-50 gamble, just one that simply didn't work out altogether. That will tie us up going in around number 5, and there have been some promising rounds for Nocturns, but also the same thing for Aqualix, and it seems the desk was pretty accurate. They were pretty much on the head about this claim that it would be a close best of 1.
Yep, at least for Aqualix on their defenses and Nocturns on their attacks, nobody taking a clear lead just yet, and Nocturns very narrowly moving down 3-1 had Gasher and Afer clutched out that 2v5, and what a play that would have been if it had happened. So far, AQ have not wanted to go to that bar dining or bar gaming site whatsoever. It's been kitchen dining, basement, and master bedroom and office, the 3 sites they have preferred. And since they just lost master bedroom and kitchen dining has opened back up after their win in round 2, I imagine that's the site they'll want to try to go back to. After all, Psycho was able to get aggressive behind a shield, and as you mentioned, after the round had ended, they just played the man advantage at that point and played the trades as Nocturne started to get deeper and deeper in the weeds on that top floor. So maybe Nocturnes may be pulling back a little bit, not getting as aggressive, but still, AQ do have a site now opened up that looked very solid for them.
And although we haven't seen the Jaeger in play all that much, it seemed like the utility burn wasn't fast enough by Nocturnes. They did spend a lot of time and, again, those valuable resources trying to eventually push away the side of Aqualix, and not even able to get any vertical down as well properly because it's a 1v2, although Doc is, alive on the sledge. I mean, he's probably not going to want to go for vertical play. It's not going to help him all that much, especially when you probably assume you're going to have someone still on the roam altogether, or at least trying to reposition, maybe even going on a flank. It's not a bad idea, especially when you're forced to go in for that plant, as you are really short on time and you have, again, no information where those last 2 defenders are. So his hands are pretty much tied in that position. So overall, not a bad sight for Aqualix, despite the fact they did lose it pretty dominantly against Doc on round 1.
Yeah, and, well, of course, with Doc in that position, he was able to get a 4K, and we weren't able to see that same success in round 2. Still holding that position has so far worked well for Doc overall, even on a completely different site on Master Bedroom and Office. He was able to get the opening pick last round from a similar spot or a similar angle, not completely the same, but still the same general area of the map. And so far, Nocturnes have been able to, even on that round they lost, start moving forward and open things up a little bit, even if Aqualix were able to win the trades in round number 2. So that just goes to show how close this game is. Even though AQ ended up winning that round, it was still a very close early round for Nocturnes that really did come down to Psychosis getting that first pick behind the deployable shield inside of Closet. But thankfully for us, we have Beastly back in the lobby, and we should be getting back into it in just a few seconds. Again, it is 2-2 between Nocturnes and Aqualix, and what do you know? They will be going back to kitchen and dining.
Overall, it seems like the risk plays have been pretty substantial for both Nocturnes and Aqualix. Again, having him going for that swing in the hands of Afer. He played so well on the Momai, and then trying to eliminate the Finka before she became too much of a hassle in those final 10 seconds was just the final nail in the coffin, essentially. Basically giving the Finka that hammer to assert that last nail that Nocturnes needed to make sure they don't throw away a 5v2 lead. Once again, like we had mentioned a couple times, Dining is back on the drawing board for Aqualix, and maybe, depending on how this round goes, we might end up seeing Bar and Gaming, but so far it seems like Aqualix have been trying to avoid that site like the plague.
And not wanting to go to it a single time so far. And for their defense on kitchen and dining, things haven't seemed to change that much for their overall lineup. Still have Afer rocking the alibi, Tra on that Wamai. and the Ward and the Runic Smoke that we expected, and that we have seen on both times for their dining defenses appear to be the same positions as well. So Nocturnes should have a fairly easy read going forward, but even then, they knew generally what to expect. Still took a little bit to get used to it in round 2.
Aqualix, they are potentially trying to set up a little more proactively against this library clear. They're bound to end up seeing happen, as that's what Nocturnes were going for the last time this middle floor site was in play, but that top floor extension still doing quite well for the most part. Xeno seems to be trying to be the forefront in this attack overall, getting out some information for the rest of his teammates and having those Rotero drones as well. I mentioned how long it took to eventually get rid of those powerful shields on the top floor. Now being able to ignore a lot of those potential shields could be quite pivotal, but losing out on your only hard breach, that's going to be a pretty big upset for Nocturnes overall, as Poison is the first one to die by the hands of Aether.
A very long angle held by Aether, able to take down that Hibana. But again, as I mentioned in previous kitchen and dining rounds, Aqualix actually don't reinforce this wall inside of office, and that's usually the main one attacking teams go for. So not having that Hibana, of course, going for the dining wall, that is where issues will arise with no remaining hard breaching for the attack. But at least for the early round, Poison's presence on the field won't be felt just yet. It's in that late round when they move down to that first floor. That is where they'll be wishing if there was that Hibana. They are certainly glad, though, that they brought these Rotero drones. Psychosis' shield destroyed, and Lackey moving up into Piano as a result, taking some very aggressive control. This is where attacking teams need to be wary. They don't want to start pushing too far and end up walking straight into the defense. They want to try to get some picks, but they don't want to move right into the waiting arms of any defenders.
Making sure here for Doc that he's able to hold off still near this balcony to make sure Xeno can try to isolate, and he'll do just that. 2 kills with the AR-33 as he begins to work his way closer and closer, but Gasher holding an angle through the hatch, shuts down the Flores, and will manage to equalize here, a minute 10 left to go.
Nocturnes have that vertical control now, but more importantly have denied it from AQ. Again, something that happens, and when we see teams go for that half clear, somebody might get aggressive on that top floor and retake heaven by winning a gunfight. Here, sure, you lost 2 bodies in the process, but it's not even something you have to worry about unless someone starts marching up a staircase. Nobody still exists on this top floor that could retake it from you. Gasher is still down below, and he doesn't need to go up to the top floor to get a kill. He actually drops down after taking down Doc with that set of nades. Now, Nocturnes are in a little bit of a tricky spot. Lackey is inside of the site, but Aqualix are more than aware of his position, and Slothy has to repel in and join him. Recover Diffuser as well. It will take an extra 5 to 10 seconds to grab it and then get back into position to consolidate on Solar Stairs with Lackey. If that's what Slothy wants to do, he'll take some time, look through some vertical angles right now, but he does not have time to waste. Being that man with the Diffuser to just wait and play the time and try to find any more angles. He'll go for that hatch drop at Lackey's still mid-rotation. He's not going to be able to find much. He will find Gasher instead, but Slothy is alone right now, isolated from his teammate, and Trot downs him inside of the site. Diffuser no longer a factor, a 2-piece from Trot to round it out. As AQ, they snatch away the lead.
And a great readjustment by Aqualix once again. Since they acknowledged that the hard breach was dead first off of round number 5, they were actually able to acknowledge what kind of play Nocturnes wanted to go for. As they fully cleared out the top floor, they wanted to go in for more of a trophy style of push. We had the Gnome Men trying to work their way around near that trophy window. They had somebody creeping their way down the Solar Stairs, but because, again, Aqualix, they simply readjusted. They still had somebody on the flank to potentially be that X-Factor maneuver, which ended up wasting some time, not too many players altogether, but having someone as well in the back of dining, watching those long angles all the way from those Solar Stairs, and also in case anyone wanted to go for a cheeky hatch drop as well, that could be denied by the Wamai, and someone playing directly in West Main 2 for that extra backup and just another player to hold those pivotal angles. It was a huge success for Aqualix, granting them that advantage once again, 3-2 this time.
And on the basement side as well, it was a matter of waiting, well, at least kind of off-site in terms of Psychosis, you know, waiting for some of the site players to do the work, waiting for Nocturnes to commit to an execute so then he could go for a flank, and oh no. John. No! That's unfortunate. Beastly having another disconnect. I do not know. I feel like this stage has had so many players like internet go out, power go out, than like any other stage before. It's like, it's happened like worryingly often.
And talent as well. I mean, I believe we, that happened with Harrison. Hence why you're going to be here all day.
That's true.
As I was.
I actually didn't even consider that. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's It's a curse that's hit everyone, I guess, in T2. But hopefully Beastly can come back rather soon and also not have to worry about any more of these technical issues. And this is not the start that Aqualix probably wanted. Not only losing Beastly via a disconnect they can't really control, but also Psychosis on that pivotal roam game is already gone in the first minute, granting Nocturns essentially that 5-on-3 with little to no effort applied.
And Nocturns were able to do that last time, except it was Tra playing that position, able to regain the same opening. But just as Afer's ERC runs out, the drone turns and spots him. Had misdroned him up until that point, but at the exact wrong time for Afer. The drone sees him. Now we're in the 5v2. Gasher and Tra both down below on the side. Probably need to get aggressive, unfortunately. Minute 50 to do it, John. A minute 50 to gather intel, but still a very difficult proposition.
Yeah, not much left really for Aqualix, and they're not even in the best positions altogether to try to work some of those potential kills unless Nocturnes begins to run in blind. But they've got pretty much a high majority of their drones alive, and they're going to take all the time in the world to gather that sweet information since they still have a minute 30 to kill, and another defender to eliminate as well. Xeno rips the head off of Gasher's shoulders, leaving just Tra in 1 versus 5, and it seems like there isn't much left for him on this earth. Poison will manage to put a couple bullets to his skull, and the pause is potentially asked for, but I mean, they already have one going and down, so it really is up in the air at this point.
Yep, we'll wait to see what the call is, as again, Beastly disconnecting that frequently. I think we will have Aqualix use their tactical timeout to try to get him back into the lobby. Again, try to make this a level playing field. It is still a 3v3, though, even with that disconnect. Though, again, they did lose that round, but I'm saying, hey, even though Beastly disconnected, it's not like, they're in a losing half now. It's 3-3, and on Chalet, it might not be great, but I'm trying to find a silver lining after Beastly disconnecting and really making that round even worse for Aqualix than it already was with the remaining 4 players. So, unlucky so far, but as the side swaps, AQ do have some time, thankfully, John, to at least go over how they want to either fix some issues they thought were irrespective of attack or defense, but also think their attacking strategies.
Potentially trying to go for something direct if they are not able to play in this full 5v5, maybe having to get extra aggressive. And Nocturne seems to potentially be aware of that to an extent. They have Slothy on the Warden to potentially hard counter this smoke play in tandem with the Ying Candle as well. Not only the Warden, but also the Maestro Evil Eyes, which if not dealt with and put in the right positions, that could also allow a lot of huge plant denial, as you can actually see through smokes with those Evil Eye cameras, and also have the lasers to zap anybody as they're trying to go for that diffuse as well. So a lot of good potential here for Nocturnes, and since they are already at that 5-on-4 position, they probably don't have to be on that assertive of a roam game and can probably just remain in the site for the most part during this round. But with Aqualix also acknowledging that Nocturnes has a very anti-smoke composition, they are going to repick and try something a little different in round 7.
Gasher is sticking with the fuse pick right now, though. Let's see if that changes. I'm waiting to see if it changes, and no, he will stick with the smoke. Or, sorry, stick with the fuse. I had smokes on the mind, as you said it, John. Mixed it up with the fuse. He could go above here, above that garage wall, take down not only anything that is electrified, but also any ADSs or Evil Eyes that could be in the area or in that general room. Be very strong if that ends up happening, and if he misses, hey, he's got 3 more attempts for those cluster charges. Try to make it work. Some focus on the solar and trophy side of things right now, though, as the trophy window opens up, and Xeno waiting to see if AQ make any missteps on the drone work.
As of now, that won't really be the case. Afer's actually expecting someone to maybe get aggressive over on that library window, or at least the one near the library hallway, I guess. My mistake, but still not going to happen just yet. Xeno also watching the hop-in through trophy, a pretty common position, so I would assume Aqualix are pretty aware of that. But if not, this could potentially be a huge kill for Nocturnes to once again have that 5-on-3 position. But hey, at least there is some sort of silver line that we've been able to find. Beastly has reconnected, so hopefully, just hopefully, he can play in round 8.
Aqualix seem to still be making their way in some parts of the building, some presence on the top floor that will force Lackey to rotate down, but still go up the stairway to maybe catch Gasher, playing a little bit too aggressively, but he too is also not trying to give himself up to Lackey. He's just sitting inside office right now, waiting to see, well, exactly what Lackey is waiting to see if Gasher will do. Doc also now going up the stairs. Both players hoping for a pick. They already have one for free, since Beastly was disconnected early on, but a minute and a half now, and while some players have made it into the building, I was about to talk about what Psychosis might be up to. He's hopped in and taken out Lackey on main stairs. Xeno has vacated this area inside of dining. Now Psychosis will snatch it up.
now having the ability to not only play for vertical, have a couple of grenades as well, depending on if there is a lack of utility in one position that can maybe find some sort of kill on one of those anchors we were mentioning earlier. Seems like the roam game is still doing all right, though. Both Zeno and Doc are still up on this middle floor, and Doc is able to find that trade on towards Tra, so Nocturns will reclaim the lead, but Zeno is quick to fall as well by none other than Psychosis, still in the middle of dining room.
AQ keeping it very close. Zeno as well, unfortunately, not realizing that that wall was open. But Doc on 1 HP. He's probably about to die. No, never mind. What a shot by Doc. But a triple kill for Psychosis, still coming down to a 2v2, which, even if AQ lose this, will still be a statement against Nocturns. Like, even with one of our players down, we're still able to keep it that close, albeit thanks to a lot of help from Psychosis with the, well, only 3 kills for Aqualix so far. But 3 kills are 3 kills, and all that's left is Poison and Slothy inside of the site. Gasher can start putting down these cluster charges on top of Wine that will force Slothy and Poison to start sprinting around and dodging all of these little hockey pucks moving down into the site. Poison playing in blue, probably holding the most important position, because no matter where AQ push from, whether it's from Trench and Wine or from main stairs, he can watch it and peek it from either of these doorways. They will now go down main, but Psychosis, who's been on a heater so far, will not catch Poison crossing the doorway. Can't exactly swing Gasher, but he can swing Psychosis, but the bomb goes down successfully. Slothy now catching the fuse completely off guard, will whittle him down to death with Psychosis. Wow! What a play to bring AQ's first round on the board. IGL or no IGL, Beastly or no Beastly, you can count on Psychosis to get the job done.
Beautiful trades and even better coverage by none other than Psychosis to save the round for Aqualix and letting them reclaim that lead once again against Nocturns. But one minute thing to discuss, because I think everyone was able to catch how well Psychosis was doing on that round altogether, making sure Nocturns were never in a safe spot for that long, was the last cluster charge by Gasher, funny enough, on the fuse, actually utilizing it to make sure nobody could step into connector. That allowed for them to simply walk towards the actual cabinet area near that boat to get the plant down and have Psychosis only need to worry about blue doorway. That did allow that the plant would get down with relative ease, and then allowed that coverage position to be held eventually by Psychosis. Although Gasher may have fallen, I guess it was more than enough for Psychosis just to find all 5, and again, make sure Aqualix will take the lead despite being down from the very beginning of that round.
Now with Beastly back, hopefully he can remain in the round for the, well, remainder of the game. I suppose, yeah, just stay as long as humanly possible. No need to disconnect at this point. But after Psychosis able to go from 1 and 6 at the start of that round to complete even for his KD. Excellent showing from him to give Aqualix again their first round on the attack. Nocturns will completely switch sites as well, going over to kitchen and dining, and going for the extension up top that you would expect, bringing the castle as well to block off some of these doorways and inhibit Aqualix from finding some of these angles, and especially that castle barricade placed in front of that master bedroom double door that will try to do a lot of the work in alleviating any pressure on Nocturne's defense as they play in piano.
Luckily with Aqualix, the sledge, and a couple of gone 6s here and there as well, they could definitely try to stop these castle barricades from being a problem. Afer immediately on the draw is going to get rid of Lackey, but at least Doc is there with the medium range, the 1.5, able to eventually eliminate that power player we tend to see sometimes in the bat for Afer. Things have been traded out eventually, still only a minute burned off the clock altogether, but Aqualix are definitely beginning to set themselves up to be in those key locations. Tra, I thought he might want to try to go up on that master window repel, but instead he'll head over and towards main balcony just to help Beastly a little bit more. Maybe allow that ace to just feed Tron formation so he can hop in with the hindsight to maybe work another kill for Aqualix.
Gasher also looking for an angle into piano. Has 2 nades he can work with if none presents itself, and one might just land at Zeno's feet if he wants to play aggressively behind that shield. He'll retreat behind Blackwall right now and not push his luck too much. AQ opening up some very slight holes in the heaven wall. That hard breach charge as they're not bringing a Thermite or a Hibana, so they'll have to deal with only those small holes afforded by Beastly's can openers in his back pocket. 1D going out as well, but AQ not moving forward. Zeno and Doc, well, or may remain just as immovable as AQ are.
Nocturne's still wasting a lot of time here against Aqualix. They are still trying to go in for that information, and I believe the EMP that's left on a bulletproof camera now will be able to disable some of that information game. Only now does the bathroom castle barricade get destroyed by Gasher. It will force Doc a little bit farther back, but again, the presence here on this top floor is still as strong as ever, despite these new openings being found by Aqualix.
Doc feeling a little bit of the hurt right now, though Xeno likely will. Shirks it off as he takes down Beastly, moving very aggressively in, and that's control of the diffuser right in front of Xeno's very eyes. He's in a very tricky spot, trapped inside of the closet, but with that diffuser, he can anticipate these players swinging on in. He can get 2 for his troubles, but maybe not 3. As Tra, he's got the ammo to count, and Xeno has to reload. He'll pick up the diffuser and finally remove that thorn in AQ's side, but Xeno, with just his gun skill and that MX4 Storm, has costed AQ some very precious few remaining seconds. Tra and Psychosis now both have to start making their way down Solar Stairs and into Trophy, but do they know about Poison's position? He's waiting for Tra to step off that staircase. He won't be able to take down Psychosis, but he can take down Tra. But no, Psycho's not even aware. He gets one, but not both. Still done his job, gone 1 for 1 with only 5 seconds left. Doc should finish this one up fairly quickly, and Nocturns answer back that unfortunate loss with a consistent win as they retain the man advantage throughout.
And because the majority of those castle barricades were still alive and well, Aqualix, they just weren't setting themselves up in the proper way to deal with people like Xeno. Sure, they had his cutoff established over near Solar Repel, but he was already in a do-or-die position. He's not going to try to fall back since he has the courage and has the confidence to go in for those swings and at least try to bring somebody down in the grave before he eventually will get refragged by someone on the side of Aqualix. But Xeno, matter of fact, ended up finding 2 kills as the utility game also wasn't there. They were just single file line, walking into the alibi, and ended up giving Nocturns that man advantage. Once they were dealt with on that top floor, there wasn't much time left for Aqualix to gather that information, in those rat positions, along with the well-established team play that Nocturns had, was just enough to now equalize this going in round 9.
We saw how powerful those castles were, especially that one on that doorway blocking the bedroom window. We didn't even see anybody from AQ even try to destroy it or go on that rappel as a result, lending, or at least part of the reason why Xeno was able to survive in that spot for so long, especially if he tried to rotate out. Here, we don't have that castle, but we also don't have those zombies, which can make this spot in Pillar, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit easier to play. So Nocturnes will have to solely rely on those magnets and those ADSs, and with no castle like we saw last time, they do and could end up exposing themselves to angles like on top of Blue Stairs, or if they get aggressive, inside a library as well.
Really shocked it took 9 rounds to eventually see Bar and Gaming in play, but definitely nice to see it all together. Having more of that stock standard selection here by Nocturne, still opting for the double shields. No smoke on the board, so it seems like Nocturnes wants to have a huge emphasis on trying to hold that top floor. Still having one roamer about. I believe Afer just caught the glimpse of him, but Slothy still lands a nasty shot onto Afer, immediately falls down, and that's just simply one less set of grenades to worry about, as also Tra has only flash grenades, maybe to add more burn into the mix, but again, losing out on Afer, definitely a huge upset for Aqualix altogether, as now Gasher has to try to clear out this elusive alibi.
And they were focusing very heavily on those nades, as you saw. If Tra had brought nades, they would have had 4 sets on the attack. So he'll bring the flashes, and they still have 2 sets with the Yana and the Maverick. Of course, losing that sledge early on, and maybe losing Gasher as well in an alternate timeline would have been very problematic for AQ, but they still have quite a few nades to make this clear for library work. They have the Yana as well to burn that Aruni gate. Now, Xeno is in a difficult position. Beastly will cook that nade to try to send it into the corner. Xeno runs at the exact right time, and Tra is not able to react with the gun. The Aruni gets back to site safely.
Good call for Xeno indeed, and oh, that's not what you want to have happen. Beastly having a grenade catch right on a Tra's body, weakening the presence altogether for Aqualix, as we still have this potential lurk up Snowmobile Stairs be somewhat of a reality still for Aqualix moving into this final minute. Psychosis eventually finds something for his troubles, but besides that, it's still a long stretch for a potential victory here for Aqualix.
Still a very good pick by Psychosis. Normally that position takes quite a few flashbangs and nades to clear out, and AQ, nope, not able to even it up because Xeno's still alive, making Aqualix regret not clearing him out successfully in the early game. A 3K for Xeno inside of stock. And I think that's another clip for Xeno with the Aruni DMR. He's gotten CL so far.
Still doing God's work altogether, picking a perfect time to go in the fallback, and because there was also a lack of utility, no one could actually play around on that single window to have anyone watching the hatch drop down. Once Xeno began to see the flashbangs, he assumed, I'm going to be greeted with a grenade in a few seconds, so I will just drop down, save my life, because we already have that man advantage. We don't need to stress too much about holding this top floor altogether. And because he was able to stack up in the bomb site, he found so much damage against Aqualix, holding down those long and critical angles to make sure Aqualix could barely even enter the site altogether, finding trades constantly for his team, and now finding their 5th round as well.
Now Nocturns have to go back to basement, which, John, I don't know if you remember, but this did not go Nocturns' way, and they try to defend it. Despite the fact that they were gifted a man advantage with Beastly disconnecting, Psychosis had other plans in mind and aced to give Aqualix the victory, able to not only, I think, potentially even drone himself into trophy, get an entry kill as well. Not sure about the droning himself in part, but certainly able to get the solo kill and, well, the solo effort overall throughout the round. Nocturns, they're not trying to change things up too much. Still have Xeno holding his normal position and likely Doc and Lackey on the roams as well. But let's see how Beastly change things up as some additional hard reach in hand. A lot more options now for AQ.
For Aqualix, I want to try to get some of those long angles opened up near the basement floor, maybe going in for a big garage clear eventually, especially since those Scour Chargers can be used quite well to deal with that. As of now, though, it seems like for Aqualix, they are still trying to go for the full basic clear, top to bottom, making sure they can get this roam game out of the equation early on, because again, especially when you are trying to attack that basement site, having the ability to go on the flank can be such a pivotal factor for the defensive side of Nocturne. So again, making sure that the roam game is either fallen back, or if they are just completely gone to begin with, is a huge step in the right direction for the offense.
Lackey will able to dodge that angle on bathroom window. Join Doc over by library side. Xeno also moving that way as well. Probably for the best as Gasher starts getting that control inside a master bedroom and office, but he does not go without a parting farewell. C4 lands onto Aether as he moves out of bathroom, and that Finka gone once again. And not exactly the same as before. No nade by a teammate this go around, but still a very useful bit of secondary utility sent out by Nocturns. As you do lose a set of nades, or, well, still a powerful operator, even if Aether was rocking the flashes.
No trade, unfortunately, either, so it's going to remain this 5-on-4 for just a bit longer. Psychosis now stepping up inside of Dining, not encountering a single soul just yet. Doc's still on this top floor. If he just remains patient for a few more moments in this round, he could potentially find something, maybe in terms of a flank, but it looks like there is a drone left on the board with potentially Aether guarding that position and gathering more information. Traw with the beautiful nade will equalize, and it seems like for Aqualix, they want to try to nip this problem on the top floor before things get too hectic in the final minute.
Doc might still be able to burn some time with that intel, or at least make any engagement taken by Trot or Gasher a little bit more uncertain. He'll swing onto main stairs, though, and, well, doesn't actually take a single lick of damage as he takes that fight. He'll retreat further back in the library with nobody on that double window. Gasher and Trot just have to peek this from their respective doorways and hope they manage to get the kill. It's working out so far. Doc on low HP. He might get one as he falls off. He gets one, but not the second. Still puts Gasher down to 1 HP. Herculean effort by Doc on that roam, considering he was a dead man about a minute ago. Still able to cause some discomfort for Aqualix as he goes out the door, and as we go into the final 30 seconds. Poison holding on to blue, and Slothy sitting behind a shield. They have many of these avenues covered. If Aqualix go for main, which, let's be honest, it's pretty obvious that they are, still a lot of doorways that they can contest from. No fuse either to shut down the push inside a connector. Only some nades to send into blue, but none of them find their mark. Lackey still able to hold from that area, and Poison even starts to retake the top floor. A very risky play with only 7 seconds left. Some of the work has to be done by the players onto the site, but oh no, the wall's opened up. He can get the pile drive, but what a flick by Psycho! Shuts that down completely. He is the lord of basement right now. And Slothy on 1 HP. Psycho might not be able to finish it off. But that does mean Beastly, should Gasher fall to even 1 bullet from the Wamai, has to do the work. Gasher's at the forefront, could still fall to the MP5 as Gasher's gone, or sorry, Beastly's gone upstairs to revive Psycho. No, he finishes it off anyway. What a beautiful execute by Aqualix to tie things up.
And for Poison, I feel like although that play was just about to work, that was a major blunder. Not for trying to go for the play, but who was opting to go for that flank? You have 3 smoke grenades in your back pocket. You know for a fact that you're going to have Aqualix, which are short on time, to go in for that plant in the back cabinets. And that's basically your only set of denial besides having someone actively in connector to try to stop that play from happening, with Aqualix watching over connector for a good chunk of time and still having that proper coverage. Those smoke grenades could have really set Aqualix back a complete great note, and that could have allowed Nocturns to easily give themselves match point. If we had the Jaeger perhaps go on the flank instead, or just no flank at all, just holding the site directly since it was a full-fledged funnel, that again could have been the round to at least force overtime in hand of Aqualix. Because of that major blunder and not having any proper denial for that plant, Aqualix will equalize in this position.
Basement still eludes Nocturns for their defensive wins. It's worked out on Dining and it's worked out on Bar. They'll get to go back to the former of those two choices, thankfully. Even though things started out with Aether getting the first pick, Nocturns have been able to keep things even in that round. As actually, by the way, John, fun little stat for you, we are completely even on the entry game between these two teams. Nocturns, they've got the entry 5 times, and Aqualix, they have the entry 5 times. So neither team has been able to really get ahead in the early round. And, you know, not like we have Dexter in the game. Both these teams have been able to get an opening pick at least a few times now.
Doing relatively well in terms of finding those entries. Sometimes the trade game has been pretty effective too between both Aqualix and Nocturns, but nothing outlandish so far in the early game. Maybe April will try to step a little bit farther back this time around, holding a more passive position, not wanting to lose his life early on to be at that deficit from the very get-go. Almost gets his head ripped off, but the Jaeger just missing a couple of Mara shots will keep us in that 5 versus 5 as a new opening is found by Aqualix once again, as it seems they still want to try to clear out this top floor, but not from offices this time. Instead, on those window repels, which grants Traw the opening kill against Doc.
And we didn't really see AQ get any repel presence on that master bedroom window before, but as now Aether marches on in. What was Nocturne's saving grace? One player sitting on the top floor last time, not even a factor here. Zeno, the player who had the big play that won that round for Nocturnes, he's still alive, but it's Aether shutting everything down as Nocturnes go to retake the top floor. Match point ripe for the taking for AQ, as Zeno, again, the player I mentioned that won that round for Nocturnes, well, he's got to do it officially. He wants to clutch a 1v4. No Aruni DMR this time as well. He's won a 1v4 with that weapon before, but it's got to be the MX4 Storm to do the job here.
You can tell that Aqualix don't really want to throw away this potential match point position, as it is just Zeno left alive, stuck in the back of dining room. Even Vertical is, not Vertical being established altogether, but maybe that hatch being opened up to fling out some flash grenades, forcing Zeno even farther back in towards dining. Really no options left for the Alibi except to try to get aggressive and maybe hope Aqualix bleeds their hand a bit too much.
Hoping maybe to stake things on that hatch drop of the Lion is not giving a single inch, so instead he prioritizes anybody pushing down trophy stairs, but nothing yields from AQ. They take match point. They've defied the odds so far with a couple rounds pretty much lost due to Beastly being gone. 7-5 win in regulation would certainly be a good answer back to that misfortune.
And the major thing that definitely set the bar high for Aqualix in that round was just their adaptability. They didn't want to try to go in for the exact same main balcony, getting off this wall and door opened up and just slowly dwindling their way in through that top floor, having to directly challenge the opposition up above. They went for something a little different. They had Aether sit back for a couple seconds, gather some information, breathe a bit, allow the rest of his team to do their job so he could get those kills a little more effectively. Having both him and Traw do a lot of that heavy lifting up above, it put Nocturne's head on a swivel, and then once it came down in that one before, I mean, we all know how the rest of that story goes. Zeno couldn't find anything except a death added to the rest of his KDR, and now Aqualix, at the very least, they can grant themselves overtime, but I could imagine they're fired up and fueled up to want to send this one out 7-5 and get a good win against Nocturnes today.
It would fit with the pattern for Aqualix so far, as all of their matches, win or lose, have had a 5-7 scoreline. They lost 2 5-7 games, and now if they win this, it'd be a 7-5 game for them to add to that tally. But every single game they've had has been close, even though it's been in regulation for every single match they have played so far. Bar and Dining could be the final sight for Nocturnes if they lose it, but they'll get another chance if they go to overtime, where they would be starting on the defense. And Bar and Gaming, as we've seen so far, has gone their way so far. Zeno able to escape Library early on. Slothy able to get the opening pick as well. This was a round with a lot of good notes for Nocturnes, and they were really able to keep at least one step ahead of Aqualix for a good portion of the time. Assuming, of course, that we don't see Beastly nade Traw again, which won't even be a possibility since Beastly has flashes. Hopefully things go a little bit smoother for AQ.
Aqualix once again changing things up, having a bigger emphasis on this top floor, not only with just their general positions outright, but also having Gasher on the floor. As with no mute on the board, this definitely could be an easy way to break some of that utility, but a fantastic shot by Zeno, not being fully dealt with just yet. Inside a library, Tra has now gone off the board. A major lack of information is now shown on the side of Aqualix, and it seems like for a little bit longer, we're going to have Zeno hold this position in library.
Zeno is opting, or sorry, AQ is opting to clear Zeno via Rotero drones, not making use of Afer's nades, and he is thriving off of that right now. But finally, the flashes go in, so do the nades as well. But because of that, can't really catch him rotating across this window like Afer was trying to do. Zeno will get aggressive. They might spot him at the right time, but as the Rotero drone detonates, Zeno drops down the hatch, and this is even better of a scenario than I think Nokturns had planned.
A major misplay trying to deal with Zeno, and eventually he will get away scot-free with pretty much a robbery of stealing all of those pieces of utility and also stealing away a kill on towards Tra. With Aqualix still eventually needing to clear out this top floor, they might need to just try to go for something else since they are very low on resources, but it seems like they are not fully out of the fight just yet, sending out one of those final few Rotero drones to maybe deal with the player inside of Chimney.
Ooh, excellent spray by Doc, but still felled by Psychosis, almost picking up a second. Balaki taking the, or getting the better of him in that instance. He swings outside of library window. Gasher also picking up another one, making it a 2v3 with Afer still on the floor. But as he goes to pick him up, it'll be officially a 3v3. But Slothy moving in on the roam. EQ might not know. They've been so focused on library, and they don't even know the alibi is creeping up behind him, readying for the kill. Gasher finishes him off with the pistol. Admittedly, a nice shot for being entirely fair, but still just one more thing that AQ have to worry about and have suffered from so far on this attack. Maybe poor positioning, not the best thought out clear, Zeno getting the better of them. Nokturns have still on bar and dining. 2 rounds now, been one step ahead, but this time it's been in terms of just the sheer foresight by them. Gasher still having a very powerful angle on that top floor. He's made it all onto Lackey to deny the regulation victory. Only 13 seconds left. Lackey has to know that somebody's on this hatch. He goes in for the swing, but loses a lot of HP. This pre-fire has to work. It has to land, but he doesn't even shoot. Gasher just tap fires for the 7-5 victory as AQ stick with the pattern. They match their losses with the exact same number of wins in Stage 2.
The recovery still there for Aqualix and playing together so well once we hit that 2 versus 2, taking the time to gather information, trying to utilize that Rotero drone to make sure no one could swing on the doorway to allow Habana to hop in at a much easier rate, but still being able to go off of that verticality as well that was slightly established by the sledge, eliminating that Aruni and forcing the Jaeger to retake. And I believe with a couple of drones still left on that top floor, he wasn't able to properly flank, tried going for a more direct approach on that first floor and was met by a hail of bullets. Aqualix, despite having a couple of connection issues, they still end this match out before we even get to think about overtime potential. 7-5, Nokturns once again taking a very, very upsetting defeat.
And this comes after their loss to unemployment yesterday, where if you didn't see the screenshots, CZ dropped 18 kills, and we thought that, okay, you know, this is Nocturne's first loss. Don't exactly know what's going on. They might not have really lost to unemployment as much as they lost to CZ. Definitely in this game, this was seemed like a lot more, I don't know, just say holistic effort by AQ, John. Nobody really stepping entirely ahead. We had that one big round from Psychosis, but beyond that, AQ was putting in a very team-based effort instead of, you know, CZ dropping 18 kills like we saw in the unemployment game yesterday. AQ, of course, still keeping it close. 7-5s all across the board from them, but now they change it up and they get a win. They're second overall in the stage so far. But we can throw it back to the desk, throw it back to Jim, and, well, whoever's on there. A lot of Canadians, from what I understand, for them to break down another one of AQ's victories.
This weekend is just the gift that keeps on giving. These matches, back to back to back, have just been phenomenal to watch. And these two teams, honestly, I know it was a 7-5. It's a tough loss. I think both teams need to be proud of the effort that they put in. You know, although Nocturne's not getting the result they want. But Aqualix, Tanner, this team, this is impressive.
I said at the beginning of the broadcast, this is a team that is really starting to impress me. And today, this was the most impressive game from Aqualix I think I've ever watched them play. When it came to innovative gameplay, when it comes to fuse, to deny area on their plant execute, or when it comes to, just being able to bounce back and make sure that they're not letting the disconnects coming out from Beastly affect them, or whether it be, Psychosis dropping an ace to win a 4v5 round. It was just back-to-back, well thought out gameplay coming from Aqualix. You saw some really, really good grit coming out, especially from Gasher, to be able to, not like let these entry picks kind of dissolve in front of you. I mean, if you go look at the stats here, there were some rounds here that just like because the disconnects aren't counted in the entry, there were like Aqualix was always playing, it felt like a 4v5, and yet they were able to constantly come back. And I know I talked about Fuse a little bit there, but I just want to highlight like the ability to put Fuse on the back line to clear the roamer so he can get to his job. He can clear all the utility in sight. He can deny connectors so they can plant on the metal sheet wall. It was just like that's ingenuity. That's stuff that you see in pro play. And that's something I think that if a team in Pro League was watching, they might want to implement or think about, what are some new ways we can use Fuse with this attacker repick? Because it's not like the old days where it's like, oh, we're going to guess which site they went. They went and got the information in the prep phase. And from prep phase all the way over to the end of the round, and the post plant with Psychosis getting that ace, that whole round was just an excellent example of why Siege is a superior FPS to other games. I don't know. I can't say anything anymore right now. I'm just that was just a great game. Cookies, what do you think?
I just can't compete with the fangirling, the Aqualix fangirling. Just kidding.
I'm bouncing, buddy.
Yeah, you're bouncing like crazy for Gasher right now. But to be fair, I know this was your first time seeing it. Gasher has revolutionized Fuse in Challenger League. Even going back to last year, they had some crazy Fuse execute on Coastline too. This is the Gasher we like to see, which is why it's always so funny. We always love debating and talking about Gasher because he's so polarizing. You like Forceful just lost his mind. I mean, Forceful's farting over this, right? And then you have games where you're just perplexed by what is Aqualix doing. And this was the good Aqualix today in Nocturns. I can say it a million times. They're probably wishing they had Splash, brother. They're probably wishing they were able to close out these games.
Cookies, though.
Herculean performances.
Credit where credit's due. Not a perfect game. Obviously, it's a loss. But I really feel like this was Aqualix earning it rather than, Nocturns dropping the ball. I felt they put in a really good effort. I mean, come on. It was 5-4 for Nocturns at a certain point. They were actually making it look like they were holding it down on defense for this team on their defensive half. And then you had that momentum push by Aqualix. I think credit does need to be given to Nocturns here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Gasher pulled out a pistol and like one tap Slothy across the map. What can you do about that? Slothy had a great round up to that point, and then Gasher said, "Nope." Gasher held his gun sideways, and that was that. When Gasher gets hood on you, it's over. And that's just really
Gasher
what it
probably
is.
has a few more things to say right now. We're going to give the interview over to him, or I'll be interviewing it. Throw it over to me to throw it over to Gasher. Gasher, win number 2, the second one of this weekend. Is this the Aqualix we've been waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, certainly better than the first week we played. First week, I mean, we're just a 5-7-7-5 team, I guess.
Mm-hmm. How did you find the matchup against Nocturnes? Because it looked like both sides were playing very well. It was just, you guys were that much better.
I mean, they're definitely a solid team. Obviously, it's sort of hard to say what the score would have been if we had Bex like every round. Obviously, lagged out like 2-3 rounds. But I mean, they're definitely solid. They're strategically, they have really good strats and setups, and I think they have really good, they do a good job of pressure, applying pressure, which is really good in this meta. So that's that we just kind of deal with it, and once you kind of realize we just pressure, if there's someone there, you can fight them. If not, you can ignore them. We started to win more, and then on attack we did a lot of shot calling. Tra shot called I think twice, and it was 100% won us a round that we would not have won. And the first garage round, I came up with a big shot call that Psycho went crazy, executed really well. Afer every round played really well, and obviously when Bex was here, really good at doing his job. It really helps me not have to tell me what to do, and I can just focus on shooting people. And I think for me, it's really helped me perform better.
Any final words that you want to say out to the fans just before we go? Because the floor is yours. This was a great weekend for you guys.
I mean, I'm really happy and really proud that we won the 45 and for some rounds. I mean, we came back and we won. We had mental resilience. We didn't really get mad or annoyed he wasn't there. We just clapped it off, said, all right, cool, we're down 45. And now I'm just really happy that we just really came together yesterday and today, and this is how I expect things to be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully it continues through the rest of the stage. Congratulations again, Gasher. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for the support.
Have a good one, dude. That's just a match I think, as a fan of Siege in general, puts a smile on your face, and I can't say it enough. Tough for Nocturns. I think there are a lot of positive takeaways, and I think they can walk away with their heads held high on this one. I think it bodes well for them moving forward if they, can just correct the little tiny errors that they did make. Now, 3 matches down, 2 more to go. The next matchup today will be Aerial Arise taking on West Garfield Park. It's going to be a tough matchup for them. We'll see that in a few minutes.